Hello artists, welcome back. We are going to go ahead and start with our card here. It's going to be our practice watercolor. So first thing that you want to do is gather your supplies. So we need tape of some kind. So masking tape would be best. If you have a painter's tape, that works great too. You're going to need crayons, light colors, so either like yellow or if you have a white, that's great. You need a Q-tip, isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and salt, as well as some kind of thumbtack or needle. If you have like a sewing needle, that's great. Something like that that has like a sharp end to it so we can scratch our page. You'll need your brushes. You'll need a half a cup of water. If you have some kind of cup that you can throw away, that'd be great so you don't have to worry about washing it out. I like to use sour cream containers or cottage cheese. And lastly, your paint. So, first thing we're going to do is start by adding water to our paint. So you're going to take your paint, dip your brush directly into your water, and then just rub it on the side of the paint container. I already added a little bit in there. I'm just going to lightly feather touch, just kind of tickle that, just kind of stir it around so it gets the paint mixed into the water. So that is ready to use. You guys have whole containers with a bunch of those, but I just have the one. So we're going to start by prepping our page. We have everything set up and ready. We're going to go through and kind of get these set up and ready to go. Just making sure that looked right on the recording. Okay, so we're going to do wax resist. Take your crayon and do some kind of simple shape. So I'm just going to do a plus mark. Make sure you really rub it in. So you can see I'm holding it low down on the crayon. Rub, rub, rub. And rub that in. On the other side, I'm going to do a yellow heart. Rub, rub, rub. If you don't really rub it into the page, it will not resist the paint and it will mix with the paint. The point of wax resist is that the paint does not mix with wax. So wax resists the paint and it does not mix with it. So I have my plus mark that you can't see because it was white, and then my yellow heart. Scoring, we're going to take our sharp object and we're just going to kind of make some lines, press down on the page, make some light ones, some darker ones, kind of scratch it up. See what kind of texture you can get with this. I'm mostly doing vertical lines, but you could do sideways lines if you wanted. But scratch up that whole box, add some areas that are closer, some that are farther, and that's good. Next one that we're going to prepare is masking. So we're going to take our tape and we're going to press it onto that area. So I'm just taking a small piece of tape, just going to shred it up and just stick it on there. Try to make it interesting. Don't worry about going over your words as we're doing this. We're just going to paint over the words. I should be able to see them through it, so it's okay. There's masking. I have a little piece of extra tape that I'm not going to use. I'll just kind of roll that up and then throw it away later. All right. Last thing I did not mention, I forgot, is to have a napkin ready. So if you haven't gotten a napkin, make sure you grab one of those. You will need it. All right. Now that we have all of our materials gathered, we can put aside all of these guys. So these were all kind of things that you needed to prep your page, but we're done with them now, so we're going to set those aside. You still need the rubbing alcohol with a Q-tip. Those will go together. And then your salt and your paint. Okay, we're going to start with our wet on wet. So wet on wet, you're just going to load up your brush with just water. Just water, and you're going to paint the whole square with water. All the way around the edges, just water. Okay, once you've done that, immediately you're going to take paint and just drop it on there. Just kind of poke the page a few times. You can see how it starts to, they call it bleed, which means it kind of spreads out. You can keep adding it on there. You're going to see the paint to want to start to mix and kind of bleed into the other areas. Pretty awesome. Okay, let's go into our salt. So we're going to prepare for salt by adding a little bit of it in our hands, like a small amount. You really don't need a lot. Come on, salt. So here you can see the salt in my hand, so it's really not a lot. We're going to take our paint and directly add it onto the square that says salt. Try not to touch the one that says wet on wet. Try not to get the paint mixed together because this one will bleed into salt, so just try to avoid touching it. A darker color works best for salt so you can see it better. If you choose a light color paint, you won't see it as well. All right, immediately take your salt and pour it onto your page. You can see how it kind of soaks up the paint and it makes lighter areas. Really cool. All right, moving into our wax resist, we're just gonna load up our brush again. If you feel like you're running out of paint, just dip your water into your paintbrush into your water and mix it into your paint. So if you feel like you're running out, add more water. It is watercolor, so you need a lot of water. All right, and I'm going to just paint the whole thing of wax resist. Oh, you can see my shape. There's that plus sign that I talked about. So I did that in the white crayon. So you didn't see it until I painted it. Pretty cool. So this resists the paint, so you can see my white and my yellow just popping out from the page. Go ahead and just paint scoring, just like normal. Paint that in there, and you'll see as you're painting, the scratch marks are going to absorb more watercolor paint, so they're going to be darker than the rest of it. So you can see that happening on my page, where it's darker where the scratch marks are. All right, we're gonna skip splatter for now and move on to rubbing alcohol. We'll come back to splatter at the end. So we're done with salt. I'm gonna put that aside. Here's my rubbing alcohol. I'm going to very carefully pour a little bit into the lid. Just like so. And be ready for what we're doing. Okay, just making sure everything was working okay. So I'm going to take my paint and I'm just going to paint rubbing alcohol like normal. It seems like there's some kind of spot there already, but I didn't add that. All right, so there is that area. Set that aside. Take my Q-tip, dip it into the lid that has some rubbing alcohol, and just dot on the page. You can see how the rubbing alcohol is really just pushing away the paint. So it has these light areas. This is great for like snow or fun textures that you want to add, maybe even kind of mossy or rocky textures. This would work really well. So that's an option that you can use. Again, it shows up best with darker colors. All right, I'm going to take my color and add onto masking tape. Now, if you want to change colors in between things, you can. You don't have to use the same color for the whole thing. I just wanted to keep it simple for myself. So I'm just painting directly on top of the tape on masking. Just paint the whole square. We're going to let that sit for now. Don't lift up anything, just leave it on there. Now, wet on dry is basically what we've been doing this whole time, where we just take paint, and then we have a dry paper. So I want you to try to get some really nice, clean lines. So just kind of press down. If you press harder, your brush will spread out more and you're going to get a thicker line. If you go lighter, you're going to get thinner lines. So just kind of practice some line painting on here. So this is called wet on dry. You get really clean edges, and that is your wet on dry. Next one is blotting, so grab your napkin. Go ahead and paint in the blotting square. And then you're just going to take your napkin and kind of crinkle it up into a little point like this. And you're just going to press down and lift off. Rotate your napkin, press down and lift off. You can see how it's almost making a stamping effect. So blotting lifts up some of the paint and the color, so then you get these lighter areas. All right, let's do our last one, splatter. If you're running out of paint again, don't forget to add some water to that. Stir it up. And this one's a little messy, so if you have anything close to you or clothes that you don't want to get messy, be very careful. You can stand up and kind of go away from it a little bit if you want to. You're just going to take your finger like this close to your page, and you're just going to tap on it. And it creates a splatter. Now you can see mine is splattering onto other squares. That's okay. Not a big deal. This is all just practice. So there is some texture of splattering. That's really good for like sand or things like that. Some really interesting textures going on. So now we're done with our card. Next video is going to be about our final landscape painting. Oh, the last thing that we want to do, sorry, is lift off the tape for masking. And you can throw away this tape. You can see the masking helps it from getting paint in those areas. So if you wanted like a really dark color around something, you could tape off an area, maybe like the sun. If you want to keep the sun really light, you could tape off where the sun is and then paint around it, and the tape protects that area so it doesn't get anything on it. I could go back and paint this a different color, as where the wax resists, that will continue to be yellow or just white. So if you want something that you can come back and paint into, masking is really good for that. All right, so that's that for this video. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys later.